Hari.
Hare Krishna. My name is Acharya Das. Today we want to talk about something very important. In the life of most thoughtful people, our life is a search for what? A universal principle, Ananda Mayo Pyasat. All living entities are seeking happiness. But what is happiness? How can I get it? We see this material world, civilizations, empires. What is the purpose? How to get happiness? From a small child, to a dog, your pets, family members, great kings. What is that common thread that binds and motivates all of our activities? The search for lasting happiness. All around the world, people are intensely seeking that. That's what's driving every moment, every day, that quest for real happiness. But who is happy out there? All the formulas that we've put together, can we say, here's an example of that? Who can we think of? Millionaire? They have so many more extra problems. The most beautiful beauty, they have so many followers that they can't even sit down peacefully. Examine all of these thoughts that our mind is giving us. If we really examine it, it doesn't add up. It's a mystery. That mystery is based on misidentification of who I am. Until we channel our consciousness into this fundamental inquiry, Tato Brahma Jigyasa, the human form of life is meant for inquiry about who I am. Unless that knowledge becomes awakened, we'll never get the happiness, because we're looking in the wrong department. If I'm looking for a toy, but I go into the clothing department, will I ever find what I'm looking for? So our happiness that we're seeking will only be realized on the spiritual platform. We may have a sincere desire for happiness and enjoyment, but we may not know how to get it. In fact, we might look in the exact opposite place. So these attempts will always prove futile until we understand the proper recipe for happiness, which has actually been given to us in a sacred culture of knowledge called the Vedas. This pursuit of happiness, as we mentioned, is universal. All living beings, according to the Vedas, are called Atma, or the soul. And as we mentioned, the nature of that soul is actually seeking happiness. But why are we seeking happiness? This soul is a part and parcel of the Supreme Being. And because the Supreme Being is full of happiness, the individual soul is also craving happiness. But as we mentioned, in this material world, we can look in so many different avenues, and we might not get what we're looking for. So, as we mentioned, unless we come to real knowledge, if our eyes are blinded by ignorance, then our attempt to fulfill that deepest hankering of our soul remains always unfulfilled. If no matter how much money we spend, great buildings we build, how many family members we have, how many relationships we have, if we're not actually knowledgeable about what will bring me happiness, which is dependent on the proper conception of who I am, Aham Brahmasmi. If I think I'm a material body, then my pursuits for happiness will be temporary, because my body is temporary. If I think I'm my mind, we often identify with our material mind. I think that will bring us happiness. Our attempt will also be futile. But the Vedas give us a very important instruction how we can find that real happiness. The Bhagavad Gita explains, Nayam lokostya yagyasya kutonyas kuru sattamaha. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then in the future? Sacrifice is a principle which may bring up various connotations. Generally, we think of sacrifice as a bad thing. I have to sacrifice my time or sacrifice my money. The formula given in the Gita is that if you want happiness, you have to sacrifice. But what do you have to sacrifice? What do we have? We all have our will. We have energy, we have life. So it's a little counterintuitive. In order to get real happiness, I have to give something. And what is it I have to give? I have to perform this yajna, or sacrifice. The Vedic knowledge explains how all life in this material world is based around the principle of sacrifice. Unless we make some sacrifice with proper knowledge, that happiness will always elude us. It's like in mirage. The happiness of this material world, it looks like it will satisfy us, but that real Ananda never comes until we accept this formula. I am a spirit soul, Atma. I am a part of the Supreme Soul, Paramatma. And therefore, when I engage in sacrifice, when I sacrifice my individual selfishness, I can get true happiness. If I sacrifice my own personal enjoyment, interestingly enough, that is the formula how I can actually be happy. And everyone in this world is trying to get our own individual happiness, but we feel empty inside. When we learn how to engage in yajna, or sacrifice for the Supreme Being, it reestablishes our connection. That is called yoga. That is the only way of getting real happiness for the soul. This is a very important science and extremely important information. Nowadays online, in libraries, everywhere you go, so much information is being shared. But who is presenting this information? How the soul can get this Ananda, spiritual happiness. It doesn't end, and it actually doesn't begin. It's a part of our nature that we have forgotten. And the whole purpose of our life is to revitalize that Ananda, which is locked within the soul. So we have to clear away the ignorance, the darkness, which tells us you can get happiness in XYZ so many different ways, and rediscover the eternal happiness within the process of bhakti yoga and sacrifice, as mentioned in the Vedas. So please stay tuned. We'll go into more series on how we can go deeper into this process of yoga. Hare Krishna.